Hello, everyone, and welcome to Out of Nowhere. On today's show, I am joined by filmmaker and experiencer Eric Mitchell, the creator of the powerful documentary Experiencer. The film takes us inside the extraordinary journey of who have encounters the phenomena beyond everyday encounters with orbs, ETs, and the profound emotional impact that comes with living through. It's like living through bloody hell sometimes. Can we please welcome Eric to the show? Hello there.
Hey, Bob, thanks for having me on. I appreciate you inviting me.
Thank you. Um, what first inspired you to share the story through your documentary rather than keeping it private?
Well, Bob, I wanted to keep things private. My investigative team wanted to keep things private. But long story short, I realized there was a very particular process that experiencers go through. And it wasn't just me that went through that particular process. I started to reach out to other experiencers. I knew the answers were there. And on top of that, I didn't want anybody to suffer the way I was suffering. And the more I reached out, the more I realized how many people were suffering the same exact thing. And it's not just, an American thing, it's all over the world. So, I've reached out to different cultures, people in parliament in different countries that suffer from it. And it's not a part of mainstream psychology, if you will. So it's a bit of a beast to learn. So once I realized just how many people were actually out there, I caved. My life was pretty much taken away from me anyway. The
Mm.
worldview that I had been building for 34 years didn't mean anything. And so I had to relearn reality. I had to relearn who I was. I had to relearn what the world actually is, and that breaks you. It wipes away everything you ever thought about and replaces it with a new reality. And in that, you kind of live in cognitive dissonance until you learn to let go of that, protective mechanism and learn to live a sort of duality that you can control. Us experiencers hide who we are all the time, even to our spouses. And so that part of yourself is suffering all the time. Society can't accept that part of yourself. So you always try to put it away, hide it. You become a chameleon and you fit into everybody else because no one can fit into who you are. So once I realized how deep this really is and how many of us actually are, um, I couldn't hold it back. Ran into some guys, UFO Garage podcast, doing a talk out in California, and they wanted to do a little maybe interview with cell phones, and I said,
Yeah.
sure, we can do that. But once they contacted everyone that was involved, they couldn't believe how big my case actually was. And they realized we need to get a movie camera, we need to get professional equipment, and we need to present this the best way we can. Problem is, it would have been a 10-hour movie. So they kind of had to pick and choose, what to put in there
Yeah.
and and that was just very difficult. So I think in the future, if this goes well, we're gonna pick the camera back up and go a lot deeper into the rabbit hole than initially. It just depends on how well it does, and um, maybe the funding from that film could go toward the next. Get the information out there.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. What about, can you describe the moment that changed everything for you, the encounter that set the journey in motion? Did it actually change you in person as well?
It did. It did. I'm from Arkansas, um, redneck area, and that's not a dig at people like myself. We're very proud of being rednecks. We normally have not a big education. We have slow Southern draws. We live simple lives, honest lives. in the Bible Belt, where everyone goes to church. We practice honesty and decency toward one another, more than most of my country. Um, I was in denial pretty bad about this orange, fiery, 40-foot in diameter sphere, glowing sphere that would come down into my yard. And it showed up twice, very close. I had no idea what it was. I was trying to explain to myself what it was, maybe ball lightning, some sort of weather phenomenon. I didn't think UFO because I knew that was just a silly subject. The third time it came down, I was unaware of it this time, and it was above my head. My head started to vibrate a little at first. And then it was almost like someone turned it up to a million.
Yeah.
And I hit the ground. I was throwing up. I was bleeding out of my nose and my left ear.
Oh, God.
The only thought I could push through my mind is, oh my God, I'm being killed. It felt like a magnet was holding me down and slightly shifting me back and forth. So I felt the direction of the source of this, what I thought was assault. And I pushed myself off the ground and looked up, and the object was above my head. Witnesses say that there was a pencil sized blue laser coming down and hitting me right here. And the witnesses, it scared them and they ran away. You know, after this object stopped doing what it was doing, it flashed twice very quickly and shot away as fast as a bullet. It was gone. So I didn't know it at the time, but I was in the very precipice of savant syndrome, where the physiological brain literally changes out of shock, out of some sort of damage, or, to this day, it leads maybe with a little explanation, but not much. I began to see my friends, and they were talking so much slower than me. It was all too difficult to explain, but I started to educate myself. I craved knowledge. I wanted to learn about so many different things, and my life came completely different. Old friends from childhood, they say, "Oh, Eric, now you talk so fast." It's
Hey, did you have Eric? Did you have any physical marks on your head then?
absolutely. Yeah, that was a difficult time to go through, and still is. It still is. You wake up, you're covered in scoop marks, laser type lacerations, and you try to find some rational explanation, anything other than what it actually is. I wasn't investigated by just one person, so there was an awful lot of people involved. I was lined up to be patient 18 in Dr. Roger Lear's implant study 2 weeks before the actual surgery.
Yeah.
Dr. Roger Lear passed away.
Oh.
So Dr. Steve Colburn, he's still around with us, and every time I bump into him, he checks me, and every single time he has found evidence of what's going on with me. A lot of experiencers don't know this, but if you pull out a UV light after an experience, you'll get a blue or a green dye on your skin. You can't see it with the naked eye, but you can see it under a UV light. And it's suspected that the green dye has no chlorine, but it seems to be biological, not human, but logical. The blue dye,
So you said it's not human.
it's not human. No, The green dye seems to be some sort of a medical substrate. Their purpose not fully known. Now we're talking scientifically. Now, as a couple of guys sitting on the back porch, we can guess, but science is more rigorous than that. They need a really good sample to but it's binded to the skin, so the samples are usually always not good. But we do know that happens, and it
Is
happens
it,
to a lot of people.
Ma- Eric? Is it like a tattoo? Then what's on your body?
Well, the dye stays around for about 6 weeks, and then it finally dissipates. 4 to 6 weeks. So if you can get to an investigator in that time, you can at least get pictures of the anomalies. But the scoops, of course, they scar. I've got them all over my arms. Curiously enough, between the elbow and the shoulder cuff only. Now we're talking hundreds, not just a wake up with a little bug bite and maybe your imagination can go out of control. These holes are big enough to put an entire raindrop in, and they don't bleed, they don't pus. The skin is somehow completely dehydrated.
Did they?
Um,
A question. What did the specialists say about these scoops then? Did
uh,
they say it was done by a laser or what?
some sort of tool. That's all they can kind of put together. I mean, you can see the markings where the edge of a tool will be at the very side of the hole, and it looks like it was just pulling out little plugs of skin. So
Right.
you can see evidence of some sort of tool, but I mean, your guess is as good as ours. My investigators say it's very typical, and of course, the work I've done, I've seen it as well. I've seen it as well. One of the most common ones are three plugs in a shape of a triangle. A lot of times, females will get it near the navel. Sometimes it'll be on your hand. You know, just elusive enough not to have really any strong answers, but just commonalities that you find once people learn to open up. A lot of people don't want to talk about these things. It's difficult for me to. But if I don't, who's going to? You know.
Exactly. Exactly. One other question I was going to ask you as well, and I think you've spoken a little bit about it. How did your family and close friends react when you began speaking openly about your experiences?
Uh, well, I most of my friends and people around me, lived in the same town as me, and these experiencers were out in the open. So all my neighbors, knew about this. They saw it for themselves. MUFON came out. People from the Pentagon were, snooping around. Um, People around town would hear about it, and they would park their cars and trucks up and down my street at night so they can get a good look at this thing.
Yeah.
So they really couldn't call me a liar. But there was a rumor that I was calling the devil down from the sky, and that got me shunned pretty harsh in town. I was a
Terrible.
Yeah, yeah, it was not fun. I'd go to town, I'd be shopping at the grocery store, and people would just give me terrible looks as if I did something wrong. And at the time, I was a victim. I didn't know what was going on. Um, so still today, I'm trying to learn as much as I can, outsource as many people as possible. Try to stay away from people in counterintelligence and counterinsurgents that'll try to push my mind in the wrong direction as far as understanding. And I've been, pretty successful with things I've done. I mean, I've worked with Dr. Edgar Mitchell and Ray Hernandez on the world's first academic study into experiencers. That was very successful. 980 pages of, information that I can take to several universities, which I've done. I brought a lot of information to universities. One thing I found out early on is that ufology can be an entertainment subject for certain people. And so you get carted around like what felt like a circus act. And this subject cut me way too deep to feel like a circus act. So
Mm.
one thing I really felt is that it needs to be in academia. And myself, Dr. Edgar Mitchell, and Ray Hernandez really felt that we needed to push that. And so we did. And we lost Dr. Edgar Mitchell years ago. I can't tell you how much he's done for the community and the subject, because he never bragged about what he did. He just did it.
Yeah.
Went to bed with a smile on his face. But amazing man. He's one of the people that have taught me an awful lot in life, especially when it comes to the subject. But yeah, that was what has been my biggest push for 13 years now, and it's been successful. There's not a lot of PhDs talking about it, but if you get involved with the email chains and see how many individuals from different universities that are kind of, um, you know, joining in the inquiry, it's shocking. It really is shocking, and I think that's going to go public eventually, because uh, it's a social stigma right now. So people are being quiet about it, but they're being actively quiet about it, and moving behind the scenes. So I think there's going to be a lot. I've been really impressed with you know uh, these incredibly smart people. So we'll see what.
When you're talking about them scoops, a good friend of mine, they call him Paul Sinclair. He's got books out and everything on phenomena, and where we live in the northeast coast of the UK. There's a place up there at Bempton where Danes that way strange things happen. But Paul has got them marks on his body, and them scoop marks. He's been to hospital. They can't figure out what it is, what's caused it, and everything. He's got papers on it and everything. But you want to get in touch with Paul Sinclair. He does a radio show as well, Paul does. And you might find him very interesting to talk to.
Absolutely, I'd love to. I'd love to. The more people I talk to, the better. I do a YouTube channel myself with my great friend Heidi Gad, and it's called Experience Your 1111, and that's the topic we talk about. And we have so many shows to do and so many people to bring on.
I know you have. Let's talk about the phenomena. In the film, you talk about orbs and ETs encounters. What do you think these phenomena represents? Physical beings, consciousness, or something else entirely?
All three, absolutely all three. I've seen them per se in the flesh, maybe about I think 5 times, not in dream state, wide awake. I've also over the years learned conscious contact. My lead investigator was very well informed on how to teach me how to not just be a victim, but learn about what I am, that side of myself. Now, everyday society, we walk around and do the things that we do, but he spent a lot of time training me to be an experiencer. I felt like a child to him, and later on a colleague and a great friend. But he's been an investigator for well over 50 years, outsourced all over the place, and very quiet when it comes to public matters. And I would not have survived this if I never met him. I wouldn't have survived. I probably and did plan to take my own life in the very beginning, but I had him, and
Really? I'm glad you did as well. I think you've mentioned, have you ever mentioned surveillance and harassment from your experience? And how did it shape your understanding of what's really going on behind the scenes?
that part's a lot worse than I can articulate. Myself and Audrey Hewins, I packed up and moved to Maine. Um, I helped Audrey Hewins with Starborn support, and I introduced her to my friend Travis Walton, and they fell in love almost immediately. And so Travis moved in with us for about 8 months, and at the time we were looking at people in the Pentagon, private industry. We were digging pretty deep, and we were coming up with names, and we were making these people upset. So um, I was harmed a lot physically. Audrey will probably never be the same again neurologically, but there was retaliation um, that I'll never forget. And I know of other people that are getting harassed, surveyed, and things of that matter. Now, recently, I think a lot of that has subdued, at least on a massive scale, but it does still happen. And I mean, I don't know who these people think they are, but once our government discovers what they've been doing, I think there's going to be a little trouble involved.
How do you think society should change in order to settle support for experiences?
I think it'll be a long time. Um, but how? That's a little bit difficult to put around my brain. But thank you for that question,
No
because
problem.
for the longest time, experiencers have been the crazy people, the woo woo people. Uh,
Yes.
but now, if you look at academia or the few people that have talked about the neurology, Dr. Gary Nolan, Stanford University, really wasn't the first person to discover the motor function being extra functional. But it is a time where we have MRIs that we can look at this situation a lot better. Um, we, as experiencers, what we're forced to hide is a little bit of savant syndrome, a little bit of genius, a little bit of extra. So if you take away the crazy stigma and really pay attention what people like myself are capable of, it's multifunctional. Um, like Dr. Gary Nolan says, these are the people that you want to hire for your Fortune 500 company. They're intuitive, they're insightful, they are empathic. There's all sorts of positive things that you can get from an experiencer. Experiencers have been outsourced by private industry and governments throughout the years. You know, Adolf Hitler knew that with the Vril Society.
Mm.
Um, I've spoken to a lot of people at NASA. There's Timothy Taylor at NASA. He's being outsourced. He controls every launch, so if we're crazy people, why are we putting them in the hot seat? And of course, there's Lockheed Martin, Skunk Works, Raytheon. They all have their favorite experiencer working for them. I do consult work, for various different people. I don't like to be nailed down by one company or anything like that. I'm incapable of doing anything nefarious with anyone because I don't want to cause any harm. But in certain areas, I've been beneficial to certain studies. Um, my new friend at University of Ohio needed some mathematics. I don't know anything about mathematics, but I did some meditations and wrote down what popped into my head and turned it in. Turns out to be useful. Maybe I can do that some more. I'm not well practiced, but um, I'll try to learn how to do that more. But yeah, we are not useless, crazy people. We're highly capable, and the thing that turns that capability on is to be accepted. It's amazing how that works. That you get asked to be yourself, and all of a sudden you can be yourself without fear or ridicule or anything like that. it's time to go to work. And we're extremely useful for these types of things. And, the social stigma itself hinders the ability for us to walk around freely. Highly empathic, caring, loving, in a deeper way than the average person. So that's a really good thing. There's not a bunch of nefarious experiencers running around, except the ones that run around with false claims. And there's been a lot of that. I've
That
been for
happens. Don't you think that happens a lot? Um, all the time, people will come to you. I've seen it at Benton where me and Paul go, and they'll turn up and say, "Are you Paul Sinclair and Bob Brown?" Say, "Yeah." Can I come and stand with you for a few hours? And then they start talking about all the experiences they've had and never shut up. And probably none of it's absolutely true.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that's you've got to put up with things like that to get on with life. What do you think the aliens' agenda are then about coming to Earth?
It's difficult to say. I don't think we're dealing with one particular phenomenon. It is just too contradicting to put it all in one basket. I think these grays are very interested in taking samples, um, checking on us over a period of time. Maybe a scientific venture. It's extremely confusing. The communication's not always honest, but like a child, you tell them what you want to tell them, right? I don't think we're really smart enough to understand. I don't think it's simple enough just to say that our species is being looked at and that's it. I think there's a lot more going on, and I wish I could tell you, I'm an expert and I know everything, but the more I learn, the more I can tell you I know less. So,
I know
uh,
that. I
I
know
hate to,
the film explores the link between consciousness and contact. How's your understanding of human consciousness evolved since your encounter? Have you picked up more about and things? Or I know you've talked about meeting other people and they're sharing their experiences with you. Um, does it help when you meet somebody who's had the same experience as yourself to get on with life?
always, they always say I'm helping them, but it helps me to help them. It helps me keep my confidence about who I am, hearing my pain through someone else's voice, my exact pain. So we're helping each other. We've got Experiencer 1111 independent social network. It's hard to get in. You've got to get a pre-screening through me, but we do, support each other. We've got some really impressive people in there, and things are starting to really come around as far as having the conversation. But I think conscious contact and meditation gets made fun of a lot. But once you sharpen that skill beyond what they call CE5,
Mm.
really, really get into it, kind of like Skywatchers and gentlemen like that, it peels back a new layer where you're more in control of the conversation. You're more in control of the information that you connect with and receive. And it's almost like a child asking questions. You're not going to understand the full answer. Most of us take in emotional information and transfer that emotional information over into our analytics and language. And during that translation, a lot can get lost. So if I tell you I stubbed my toe, you know exactly what it feels like to stub your toe,
Yeah.
not yours. So in translation, we lose a lot of things, but the gist, the weight is there. And so even though you may not be able to articulate it all the way, it's there, and it's much stronger than speech. There's a few people out there running around that talk about having that experience with me, and those some of those claims are actually true, and it'd be great to really show that scientifically in the future. And I think, of course, that's going to happen.
Definitely. When you, I think you've been, if you get examined by a surgeon or whoever, what's their feeling? What they're trying to tell you as well? Because you might say, "Oh, this is by aliens," or do you think they believe you? And,
Yeah.
and there's lots of studies done on it where people think, "Oh, he's never going to change his mind. There's something wrong with that bloke."
Yeah. Well, I'm one of the very first to crack into academia. So I don't know of a PhD that I've dealt with that doesn't believe me. They're show me type of people, and once they take a look, they know. And Dr. Michael Masters, we had an experience together, and it put him into ontological shock for quite a while, and really made him look at the world in a different way, and kind of wiped out his worldview the way mine was, and at a distance, I sort of watched him go through that. I felt terrible, uh, and I kind of wanted to take it back, but at the same time, he turned around and wrote papers with Harvard University on the subject, and it helped him further his books and his theories and all of that. So, great guy, extremely intelligent. Through him, I've met a lot of other PhDs and had a lot of conversations and things of that nature. So, I feel that things are moving along, and we all want it to go a lot faster. But it's uh, it's definitely happening within my lifetime. So I never thought I would see that day. So I'm really happy that things are moving along the way they are. But I believe disclosure is not too far away from us, and I've been told that counterintelligence does not want the experiencer portion to come out, just the fact that we're not alone. So I really felt that I needed to get out there a little bit and explain uh, about who we are, and I think this is the very beginning.
Well, I'm sure I'm the same as you. I think it will. They'll have to, because I think either a big monster alien craft will appear somewhere like London, presumably massive, and where they can't stop telling people, and it will be on the news because they'll have to put it on the news, or else they'll have people going and ransacking and all sorts. Because you never know. Um, what's the biggest challenge is translating such extraordinary experience into a documentary? Do you find it? How do you find it in front of a camera then?
To minimize the information and put it into something a little over an hour is almost impossible. So the guys at UFO Garage, they did a great job, and we're just going to have to further it with another film if we can make it possible. May have to crowdfund, may have to dig into my personal savings, or one way or the other. I'll find a way to get it out. Um, it's there's this, Bob. There's a sort of a misconception when it comes to disclosure. I think with most people's thinking that some sort of president or high official is going to get behind a podium and just announce it to the world. I, I don't think that's going to have the biggest impact. The biggest impact is personal disclosure, one person at a time, walking down this rabbit hole that they never thought they'd have to walk down. Maybe they saw something, maybe something happened to them, maybe something happened to a friend or family member, and they start taking a peek. And now you can see things, through the American Congress and all the high officials that have, brought this up. Little details that they're kind of shoving in there that it's all too familiar for us. And once you start going down that rabbit hole, you can't get back out. You are officially disclosed.
I can imagine so you are. Um, If viewers, what do you think viewers can take away? One message from the experiencer. What do you think he hoped to be?
You're not alone, you know. Um, the best thing an experiencer can do is reach out to another experiencer, and then another, and then another, and compare your notes, compare your thoughts, compare your feelings. Know that that part of you doesn't need to be closed off, but it needs to be nourished, away from the stigma of society. And once you become whole, get out there and help people like yourself. That's what I've done. I've fallen in love with thousands of people all over the world, different cultures, different microbiomes, different religions. It really doesn't matter. We're everywhere. To a grass hut in Africa, to province and Bulacan, Philippines.
Oh
Um,
my God.
yeah, all over the place. So it's beneficial to be fully yourself. And if you can't do that in everyday society, then find a handful of friends that understand it and lean on them as they lean on you, because it's medicine. It's medicine that's not offered by anyone else.
You know, what would you say to people have had an experience but told nobody, and to give some advice where to go and who to talk to?
Uh, there's a lot of support groups all over the world. One problem I have with that is it becomes campfire stories. We're talking about what happened externally to you. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I encourage it, but I also encourage that we go a little bit deeper and stop talking about external experiences and start talking about the internal experience that you go through. That's not talked about. Why? That's the biggest impact in the world.
Why
The
does it happen?
That's right. That's right. And we're all going through the same thing internally. So we can compare stories of external, experiences, and that can be a little bit fun around the campfire or support group. But the real thing is that the inside of you becomes the same as every other experiencer out there, and that drops the ego, that drops the who's got a bigger story. We're not supposed to look around and see
No.
story. And that keeps us divided and conquered and fighting each other. Um, but our true commonality is what we go through on the inside. It's an exact match every time. So that's what needs to be addressed to modern psychology, first and foremost, sociology. We do have a very particular brain that's noted through science now. If you've got a particular brain shape, you've got a particular mm, psychology about yourself that might be different from other people. So, every 100 years we think we're at the pinnacle of understanding reality, and every 100 years we are not just wrong; we are profoundly wrong every single time. We crawled out of the woods a few 100 years ago. We're new at this, so um, this is just one more step into reality. Instead of crawling out of the woods and creating this funny little game where commodity costs you funny looking pieces of paper in order to survive, and it's just we have amnesia and we're just playing this funny little game right now. But we're still learning. We're a species with amnesia. Um, Figuring things out. And even though it's almost comical that what we're doing now as a species seems important, I think we're going to grow out of this cocoon and find our way.
Yeah, I think so as well. Do you think most people are chosen to have visitations from other entities?
I don't think so. Um, I think people with the ability, um, they reach out, they try. There's some people that experiment, want to do Stephen Greer CE5. Some are successful, some aren't. But it's great that idea is put out there. Um, But I think for the most part, people start feeling funny, feeling different. They go through particular things. They start denying certain things that happen all the time. You know, they throw it out. There was just a coincidence, or it's this. But look how much that builds up over time. You know, and when you realize you're different, and yet I live in the Western world, so a lot of people in the West really don't look at a whole lot of meditations. They don't learn how to look within. They don't learn these things. You know, my friends in the East, it's their way of life, you know. So I think it's more difficult in the Western world to take on the idea of meditation and self work. But once you learn, and once you realize you're highly capable of things that you might be scared of at first, you know, maybe you can't turn around and go back. But it's an amazing thing. It's amazing what the mind is capable of if you just let it be itself.
Oh, true. I know you go to church and everything. Do people talk about it, churchgoers, especially churchgoers? Is it one of those things where they don't like to talk about aliens, experiences, what you've seen, what you've heard?
Not really, no. They don't like it. But I have people that I've worked with that go to church religiously, and they're going through the phenomenon right now, you know, and that puts people at a crossroads. You try not to lead their thoughts. You let them find their way and just be supportive. Pushing your thoughts and ideas or religion on people, I think, is pretty invasive and wrong. But if you just help and watch people grow into their own thing, I've learned just to respect that. You know, why push, something that's going to happen naturally? You know, I already know the process that they're going to go through, or they're in the middle of. And so you just kind of be supportive and wait it out and support them some more, because they've got to find their own way. And who knows, they might find answers that you haven't found yet, right? So we just kind of stick together. No cult, no initiative, no prime directive. You know, it's just people that need to lean on each other to try to understand what's going on, and not just that, but just have somebody there, to talk to, or just to be quiet with.
And if you ever do conferences, I don't know if you're going to do in the future, but you probably will do. How does children feel about maybe your family side or whatever? Come to terms and say, "Daddy, what did you see then?"
Kids process this a lot easier than adults. By the time we're adults, reality's set in stone, and we're not going to turn back and relearn reality. So adults have to observe their own worldview shatter, and we sort of duct tape it back the wrong way so we can get to work tomorrow. We don't take, the time to put it together. Who does have time? But children, they believe in fantasies. They believe in Santa Claus. They believe in the Easter.
Yeah.
So I noticed for me, I was going through hell, and my own children were extremely intrigued and accepting without much hesitation. They were still learning what reality was. So that was an integration. And some people say, well, you darn civilians, you're not trained observers. Well, maybe, but, my son was 12 years old when this started.
Oh my God. Yeah.
He observed MUFON. He observed the Pentagon. He observed all these things he wasn't trained to observe, but now he is in the United States Army. So now he is a trained observer. And he still knows what happened throughout his entire childhood, or most of it.
Well, that's good. I was going to say that. Right. Do you see the film as part of a larger moment to legislate experiences testimony in scientific and cultural discussions?
I hope it does. That's all I could do is put it out there and put there to have popularity. It was put out there to get the attention of very particular people like myself, to let them know that they're not alone. You know, it wasn't about look at special me. You know, of course, we have the director and the producers that wanted to go a particular direction. But I told them, you know, it's not about me. It's about all of us, you know, and that's kind of the only thing I wanted people to take away from the whole film is that you're not alone, you know, when it comes to who you are inside when it comes to the subjects.
Question from Rebecca here. Eric, has the Men in Black ever visited you?
Yeah, in a way, in a way. I try not to get too much into it because I get upset. But during the time that Travis Walton and Audrey Hewins were together, we were digging up information that was pretty sensitive, people's names and stuff like that. So there were people that would come to the front door with a clipboard saying they worked for the cable company. We didn't even have cable. The clipboard was an empty piece of paper, and the guy's wearing a $200 pair of pants, wanting to crawl under the house to check the wiring. There was an awful lot of stuff like that, and it would take all day to explain it. But as far as the nefarious black suit showing up, you know, like you would see on the television, no. But as far as black SUVs trying to run you off the road, getting harassment, phone calls, texts, death threats, stuff like that, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. The more you push, and you know, I believe it's private industry people that hire trained individuals to keep a lid on their activities. And I don't think it's our nefarious government that our taxpayer money goes to. It's these people that are trying to protect their investments in technologies and religions and belief systems, control systems. You got to realize all these things kind of dissipate the moment you kind of pull the curtain open. And so there's a lot of reasons why there's a cover up on this, but it's going to be disclosed. And I think we're well on the way of that happening right now. And I hope there's a lot of retribution that goes toward these people that have no right to attack and harass innocent civilians, you know, civilians, people that are trying to pay their taxes, do their job, raise their kids, and put love into this world do not deserve what I've been through and many other people. And I'm so proud of my boy to go and put his life on the line for the same people that
Yeah, that's true.
destroyed our lives.
Do you think moving will help you get on with life again?
I used to have that idea. I did. It was a daydream. It was an absolute daydream. I don't know how many times I have moved, you know, and it doesn't matter.
Is it?
First,
I know
move.
we're talking about moving. Is it a personal thing you wanted to move and get away from people telling stories about you?
Well, my first thought, my daughter got accepted to college in Maine,
Oh, brilliant.
and at the time we were the last resident in my neighborhood. Everybody else had packed up. They moved away. They were scared of the activity, and they were scared of their own government. You know, the Black Hawk helicopter treatment.
Coming over.
Yeah, so my whole neighborhood moved out, and I found it was, for me, it was just time to go and start over new. I saw it as an opportunity to go to a different state where nobody knew me. I can start over and I can have a normal life again. Nobody will ever know. And I love that idea. So one night, I even left the furniture. I backed up everything I could into the trunk of my car. I put the kids in the back seat, and we took the trip all the way to Maine. And we stopped at several fun places along the way to kind of start off this new journey in life of just going back to being a regular person. And September 1st, 2014, we had our first day at our first apartment in Maine. We're on the third story back deck of our building. Just rented our apartment, and we are talking to our new neighbors outside. And I got this feeling, and my heart dropped into my stomach, and I said, "Oh my God, no!" And this object came up over the trees across the street and hovered right in front of the deck. My neighbors were kicking over chairs and pushing each other, trying to get inside to get away from the object. And me and the kids just stood there staring at this thing, going, "Oh my God, we're not going to get away." And of course, my lead investigator, he already told me that it was a daydream. He already told me that you don't just get out. You can't ever fit back in the box. You can't ever walk away. So the more you face it and the more you accept it, and the more you integrate it into your life, the healthier you become, the less you torture yourself. So I love the idea of just being skeptical, and I am skeptical the best I can, and I'm a show me person. But um, certain things I've had to swallow that I didn't want to accept. Some were harder than others. Some I'm still struggling with, you know. But I think for the most part, I'm in my own way a lot of the time because I want to get it right. you know, I don't want to just run out there and be popular in ufology and maybe compete with other people. I mean, that's such a silly game, and people are entertained by it. It's their thing. But for me, I just want people like myself to be comfortable in their own skin. I want them to get the help that they need, and I want to see them thrive. I want to see what some of these people are capable of, Bob.
Oh
And
God, yeah.
and so far, I have been impressed. Like, I just had a I I had a lady yesterday, and matter of fact, she's talking about coming out here to visit me, and she remote viewed parts of Skinwalker Ranch, and I've surveyed that property twice. I have. It's actually a part of Skinwalker Ranch. It's called Space Wolf Research Center. The first time I went out to survey the property and give a report about what I was witnessing there, I was startled. I had to stop doing what I was doing and go home and think about what's out there.
Mm.
Years later, I came back, and I didn't know this at the time, and she didn't know either. She was remote viewing that area the same time I was out there. And yesterday, we both just found out that was going on. But she picked up everything that I picked up on, and she didn't want to tell me. The reason being is because you don't want to sound crazy when you're talking about these things. But once she took that risk and told me about it, I said to her yesterday, "Sweetheart, that is exactly my assessment on that property." And if she hadn't opened up, she would have just thought she was crazy. But we compared notes, and she was absolutely right about what she remote viewed. And she did a better job than all the scientists combined
Ah, brilliant.
throughout years. And that's all you need. That's what I'm talking about. You send one experiencer out there to check the property, and you would have saved years and millions of dollars.
Oh, exactly. And they spent a load of money on that place. What's next for you? Another film? Research?
Um, I'm I'm pretty tired, Bob, but I'm gonna, I'm home now. I want to recharge. A lot of things that I do, I don't really gallivant in front of the public. I just kind of keep to myself. But it's been a wild ride. It's been fully eventful for over 13 years now. So I want to relax for a little bit here, gain my bearings, work with other experiencers, and um, but yeah, I think a number two film is in order. The second one will definitely be a lot more informative and in depth. I think the first one definitely gave a little bit of an introduction, but in in recent times, I've realized that there's a lot of information that I should probably put out there that people will appreciate, or at least begin to grasp on this journey we're all taking together. You know, there's people with misinformation, disinformation. There's been I think we're getting closer to the truth, and um, I think I never thought, Bob, that I would be in these times. I thought I would be an old man or dead before I saw anything happen.
Oh my God.
So it's really put me in a violent shove to just talk about what I know, and what I've learned from other people, and all that. But I'm nervous about it. I'm just a guy, um, and but I want to play my part in my responsibility when it comes to this subject. So it's one of those things where you jumped out of the plane and you just realized you did it. I don't want to. I want somebody else to do it. Somebody better looking, somebody smarter. Uh, Somebody with a cooler hat. Not me. I'm not the guy. But
Do you think when you look back on yourself, do you think you've changed a lot in personality?
extremely, extremely.
Well,
I,
being more aware of things happening around you.
I started off with 110 IQ, according to the first round of studies on me. The last time I checked, it was around 150 IQ. And we kept kind of checking over the years until I refused it. It's useless. The smarter you get, the dumber you realize that you are. And I don't want to be dumb, but that's just kind of how it works through savant syndrome. Um, yeah, I've got friends that don't recognize.
Who you are.
Yeah, yeah, I've grown a lot. I've grown a lot, and that's not a bad thing. I lived a very fascinating life in the past 14 years, 13, 14 years, and I really can't say I regret it, but I miss my simple life. I miss just being a redneck and go fishing, and now I see it as fish abductions, and I don't want to hurt a fish's feelings. So, so um, it's been a difficult journey walking away from myself and rediscovering who I am.
What
And
job before all this happened? What job was you doing then?
I was I was working at my friend's restaurant. I've owned a restaurant in the past, and he didn't really know how to navigate the health department and
Oh
all
God.
the things that you were supposed to do. So he was paying me to not only restaurant off the ground, but he also wanted me to cook and work there and train employees and stuff like that. So um, that was about as far as my mental capacity could possibly go at the time. Minimum wage job. Of course, small town Arkansas, you're not going to expect to really have a whole lot of skills. Most people here work at grocery stores or gas stations or hotels. Simple life and simple
Right.
job. Yep. And now I'm consulting with universities about various things. And
Brilliant.
it's sometimes I'm on the phone and I just kind of freeze frame in my mind going,
I bet you do. I bet you think, my God, I've come from this to this now, and I may be getting on stage and talking about it at UFO conferences even around the world.
yeah, I never thought I'm trying to explain what that's like. But sometimes you freeze frame, you freeze time and think, how the hell did I ever get here? How is it possible? That you get up in the morning and someone from the intelligence community was reassigned to this particular subject, and they call me up because they heard my name at Harvard or Stanford, or University of
Oh yeah,
Northern
yeah.
Montana Tech, or University of Ohio. Um, it's sometimes I've got to stop and really reflect. And of course, there's a part of my mind, a cognitive dissonance, that wants to push it away. Wake up tomorrow, back to my old self. They say ignorance is bliss, and it truly was. And I was lucky to have 34 years of it, but I can no longer fool myself thinking I could just jump back into a normal life and be happy again. I do, however, have this bit of a daydream, since I've fallen in love with Southeast Asia, that maybe someday I can go retire out there in these spiritual areas where they accept people like me.
Oh, well, thank you for that. We've just about finished the show now. The hour's up. But thank you again for coming on the show. I think everybody's enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you, Bob. It's great to have the opportunity to hang out.
And my guest next Wednesday, the 3rd of December, you might have met this guy. They call him Paul H. Smith. He's the longest serving controlled remote viewer.
Oh, yeah. 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 I'm terrible with names, but yes, I know who you're talking about. That's going to be an interesting show.
He's on my show next Wednesday, the 3rd of December.
That's excellent.
Yeah, well, thank you again. Thank you to everybody in the chat room as usual.